Hold on, redo. You didn't turn on your microphones. You have to turn on the microphones. Professionalism.
Oh man,
Professionalism.
we're professionals, we swear.
All right, now starting back. 3, 2, 1.
Hello, Pod. It is day 10 of Black History Month, and we're continuing our series giving our flowers to Black directors. I'm your host, Jackie McGriff, and if this is your first time listening or watching, welcome to Representation in Cinema. We talk about the films that center Black, Brown, and Indigenous voices, as well as on the film industry itself. I'm not only your host, but also the founder, director, and co producer of Our Voices Project, a production company that shares the stories and lived experiences of Black, Brown, and Indigenous peoples through visual storytelling and truth telling. We are committee engaged or community community engaged filmmakers who firmly believe that you can't center films on these communities without being in community and in solidarity with them. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the little bell to get notified about new episodes. If you're listening on your preferred podcast platform, hit that follow button, rate us 5 stars, and leave a comment to share your thoughts about any of the things that we bring up in this or any other episodes. Tonight's episode is about Peter Ramsey, the director behind Rise of the Guardians and Spider Man Into the Spider Verse. And let's get into some background about Peter Ramsey. Peter Ramsey didn't grow up believing he could be a director. Growing up in Crenshaw, he didn't think making movies was something regular people did. He thought films were made by these extraordinary people. He was someone who instead focused a lot on his drawing. For a long time, he thought he'd be a comic book artist. But then he discovered storyboards. Looking at them, something clicked. These weren't just drawings, they were movies before the movie existed. And for the first time, filmmaking felt reachable. Not a dream job, a craft. Working as a storyboard artist put him in rooms with directors on massive productions. He watched how they spoke to departments, how they shaped tone, how they made decisions under pressure. It became his film school, not theory, but observation. He learned filmmaking by watching filmmakers solve problems. So when he eventually stepped into directing, he didn't approach it like an auteur with a megaphone. He approached it like a collaborator. That shows up clearly in the kinds of stories Ramsey gravitates towards. Stories about belonging, identity, and the emotional interior life of characters navigating worlds bigger than themselves. While he and his co directors were developing the story for Spider Man Into the Spider Verse, he fell in love with Miles Morales and his family, his parents, his uncle, his environment, and wanted audiences to feel that authenticity. The goal wasn't just to watch a hero succeed, it was also to root for him. Ramsey isn't interested in characters who are powerful because they're perfect. He's interested in characters who are powerful because they're figuring it out. That motivation feels personal. For much of his career, he didn't see himself as a pioneer even after becoming the first Black filmmaker to win the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature or the first African American to direct an animated feature after Rise of the Guardians. To him, the job was simply to do good work and honor the people behind it. The crew, the artists, the hundreds of collaborators animation depends on. That attitude carries into how people describe him on a production: calm, focused on tone and style, generous with credit. Less a commander, more a conductor, making sure every piece harmonizes. And maybe that's why his films resonate the way that they do. Peter Ramsey makes stories about finding your place in a world that feels predetermined because his own path into filmmaking wasn't obvious either. He didn't kick the door down, he discovered the door was unlocked all along. And then he held it open for others. So tonight we're giving Peter Ramsey his flowers. If you haven't already watched his films, we highly recommend that you do so. All right. So on to Rise of the Guardians and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Um, and actually, before I move on, there was as I was doing research for this, there were people who had said that he had done both the Spider-Verse films, and just to make the clarification, it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse that he directed. He was the executive producer for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. So we will just be talking about, or I will just be going over Rise of the Guardians and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Two incredibly well-made animated films. And so for those of you who don't know, so I'll start with Rise of the Guardians.
Can I throw you off base for a second, Jackie?
Sure.
Um, you mentioned the storyboard stuff and how many directors he worked with.
Yeah.
That list
Yeah.
is something else.
He
So,
worked with Francis Ford Coppola for the Bram Stoker's Dracula, I know.
worked
Yeah.
with Spielberg multiple
Yeah.
times, Spike Jonze and,
Yeah.
um, why am I forgetting the guy who was actually driving those movies as well? Charlie Kaufman,
Okay, yeah.
worked with Roland Emmerich multiple times.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is absolutely crazy. It's Independence Day, Tank Girl, Being Malkovich,
Yeah, the
Fincher
Independence Day,
twice.
like, threw me. I was like, "You worked on Independence Day?" Yeah.
He worked with Fincher twice. He worked on
Yeah.
Fight Club. He worked on Panic
Yeah.
Room,
Lot
like
lot of
Spielberg
films.
multiple times. Like this is like just the storyboard artist part is like
Legendary,
legendary stuff.
for sure.
And then his second unit directing stuff, he worked with John Singleton twice
Yeah.
as second unit director. I mean, those are like legendary films. Poetic Justice, Higher Learning, and then was second unit director on the terrible Godzilla from 1998, but Tank
Oh,
Girl
let's
as
not forget.
well.
Yeah.
But these are movies that are so like important to
Yes.
all these different directors
Mhm.
that he was a core part of, not before getting to be in the director's seat.
Yeah.
We're talking almost, 15 years
Yeah.
of 15, 20
Storyboard.
years before then.
Yeah, storyboarding. And, like, yeah, and the way that he describes it in interviews, I mean, he's just, like, dropping name after name. I mean, think the interviews that I watched, he was talking about having worked with David Fincher and Spike,
Spike Jones.
Jones. Yeah, like, I and Francis Ford Coppola was just really just, like, because I was just like, because he also talks about, like, having watched these just masterful films. I mean, Apocalypse Now, you have the Godfather movies, and he just remembers, like, just being in awe, and that this is why he thought that he couldn't be a director or didn't know that it was a career because he thought, like, these were just, like, films that, like, kinda, like, fell out of the sky, and, like, there are these incredible directors, like, how do you even get to that level? And so he, for the longest time, didn't think that it was a possibility for him until he started storyboarding and started learning, how to um direct. Basically, I mean, essentially, when you're storyboarding, you're working a lot with a director. And so that's how he learned all the tricks of the trade. And of course, I mean, being a storyboard artist, for what, like 15 years,
Yeah.
you learn a lot, and especially when you're talking about the greats, like, these directors have been doing it for a long time and have been doing it well. You take a lot from that. And so it's interesting to me that for so long, he didn't think that he would be able to do it. But then when you watch his films and it's the two films, and he's also worked on The Mandalorian, he's done some episodes with that, and he's done a number of other things, but for him to only, like, have, like, 2 films under his belt where he is the director. I mean,
Yeah.
he technically co-directed Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, but even so, like, that's to his credit, but they are incredibly made films, and I just Peter Ramsey, because of course you're listening to the podcast, um, direct more, please. Like, direct more films, and which is why I wanted to, again, center an episode on him because his story is very fascinating. It resonates with me too because listening to multiple interviews where he talks about, again, not feeling like it was filmmaking was at all a career. That's what I thought growing up. I remember of the first time I went to go look up a film on IMDb, and it was for the movie Holes. And that film, like, really, I just that was I remember that being a film where I looked up, actors and, who was working on the film and stuff, like, for the first time, and ever since then, like, I had been doing that since and just figuring out more about it, and I started to work on sets here locally, and I thought that you had much like he states, like, I thought you had to, like, build, up you go up the ladder just as far as becoming a director. I didn't know you could just be a director. And then
Yeah.
also too, like growing up, he also talks about how, he's coming from the, South Central in LA. And back then you didn't have the access to, all the technology that we do now. He also just he didn't have money to go to film school. Like he took a few video video production classes, which again, I'm also like, yeah, I took a couple classes in college, but like I didn't think that again directing was something that I could just do. So that really resonated with me. And then also just to hear him like in interviews, like he's just so like humble and like down to earth, and he clearly knows like what he's doing. So again, Peter Ramsey, make more films. Um
But that he was also 37 his first time as a story part artist.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he's not a 23-year-old, he's
Right,
somebody who'd already lived a life,
right. Yeah, for
and
sure.
that's
Yeah,
a thing. Like,
that's the thing.
you can tell a story better because you've lived.
You've lived.
You're not just out of college, you only
Yeah.
have that kind of experience.
Yeah, it wasn't until his 20s where he thought, "Oh, I can like that might be a possibility,"
Yeah,
or yeah. So, yeah,
just
so
cool stuff.
it's cool stuff, but yeah, like I feel like, if when I mention Peter Ramsey, people don't know who I'm talking about, and I'm like, "Okay, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, you've definitely heard of, right?" Well, he was the co-director for that, and Rise of the Guardians, if you haven't watched it, what are you even doing with your life? Speaking of which, Rise of the Guardians. So just a brief synopsis. So if this was made as an animated feature made back in 2012. It follows Immortal's childhood legends. So Santa, or as he's called in the film, North, the Easter Bunny, Tooth Fairy, and Sandy, or the Sandman, who team up with a reluctant new recruit, Jack Frost, voiced by Chris Pine, to stop the evil spirit Pitch Black from destroying children's belief and plunging the world into darkness. So in this film, the Guardians, that's what they call them, that's what they're called. Their mission, their lifelong mission is to bring joy to children all over the world, to also protect them. And they have of course, like each of them have their duties, right? To the children and everything. And the man on in the moon is like who they take their direction from. And so the Guardians are told, they need to, or the man in the moon has found a new recruit. And so that new recruit is Jack Frost, and they knowing Jack Frost's character, because Jack Frost in this film looks like he's a teenager, like he looks like a teenager. Um, and so they're like, oh, he's like obnoxious, he's rambunctious, he's arrogant, like there's no way that he's the new guardian. And this film, when I saw it back in 2012, I saw it in theaters. I think I went late. I think it was like late at night because I with a friend, because we were like, we know it's gonna be a bunch of kids. Like if we
We
go at
don't
an earlier
we don't want
showtime,
none of those
we don't
kids.
want none of those kids. Like we just want we don't want like, random talking and yelling and stuff like during the film. We were like, okay, if we go late enough, right? I think it was like at 9 o'clock at night or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But we were like, okay, the kids are home in bed. Like, okay, this is the adult, like the adults going to go watch an animated film. We're like, yeah, we just want like less of that like happening. And so I just remember going, watching Rise of the Guardians and being like, this is the coolest thing ever. Because like it's a bunch of like fairy tale characters, right? And we think we know everything, right? About I mean, these are stories that we've grown up with and everything. But like I was telling like Chris before this, like it is like you take your fairy tale characters and basically make them badass. So like Santa, or again, he's called North. Santa has a Russian accent. He has tattoos. He's very like sarcastic and snarky, and he's just fun. And then like Sandy is like this cute little like like a small character who doesn't say anything. He but like there's a kind of like a noise like he makes, it kind of sounds like jingle bells almost. the noise that he makes, right? And all of the characters, right, understand him. And of course, like the audience, we don't. So it's kind of like that dynamic. The Easter Bunny, voiced by Hugh Jackman, has a full Australian accent. Um, Also like super cool. He's not like this cute little bunny. He's um like Easter Bunny is kind of jacked. Like it's just funny. I'm like, okay. Like
He's like
it's
Hugh Jackman, it's in his contract. He has to
yeah.
be every character, animated or not, has to be under 10% body fat.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
mandated. Am I
Really?
am
Yeah.
I am I PT Barnum? Cut. Vascular PT Barnum. Like he needs the vascularity or
The
what's the point?
vascularity is crazy. And then you have the Tooth Fairy, and she has, like, her little, like, kind of like minions or whatever, but, she kind of, like, moves like a hummingbird, and it's just, like, these really, like this is, like, a cute character, and they're all, like, really cool characters, and then you have Jack Frost, who carries his cane, and, like, cane is what helps him, like, wield his powers and stuff like that, and he's flying around, and he's just this again, he's a teen, um, who folks can't see, at first because, there aren't any kids who necessarily believe in him. Like, the Guardians know who he is, but kids don't know who he is, and that's actually what adds to the Guardians' power is that, the more kids believe in you, right, the more power you have, the more strength you have. So here comes along, he's always really good at playing a villain. Pitch Black, who is voiced by Jude Law. Again, very good. Like, he's always so good at playing those characters. And so Pitch Black is determined, of course, to take all of the belief, like, he wants to weaken the Guardians. So he wants to take, you know, essentially, like, fill the kids, like, dreams with, like, not dreams, but, like, nightmares. Like, he is a piece of work. I'm like, first of all, what the kids do to you, to, like, why do you wanna give them all nightmares? It's crazy. But, like, yeah, so that's his whole mission, and so, of course, like, with adding Jack Frost as, like, onto the Guardians, like, the whole time Jack is trying to figure out, like, where he comes from, what his backstory is. He's trying to find his identity. He finds out that each of the guardians kind of, like, has their center. So their center is essentially like their purpose. Like, what is their purpose? And so the whole time he's, like, trying to figure out who that is, and he's reluctant to become a guardian and stuff because he doesn't feel like he quite fits in. Um but all the while, like, he wants to be known, right, by the kids. He's constantly creating all of these opportunities, like, for the kids to play games, have fun, especially in the snow. And so it's about really him finding his identity, finding, like, what makes him him, finding his purpose, and at the same time being recognized, right, by the kids. Eventually, like, I guess, like, in the story, Pitch Black, kinda takes that strength away from the Guardians, right? Getting more and more kids to not believe, right, that each of these fairy tale characters exists. The way in which the film is done, like I said, like, when I was sitting there watching the film, a few thoughts came through my head was, like, one is just how cool the animation is. Um, there's all these, like, little details that you notice throughout the film. It's very colorful, very vibrant. It has that again, the kind of animation that's there, the design is very much like what you would expect if you've seen other DreamWorks animation films. Like, you can kind of picture, what that'll look like. But again, it's all the in all the details and how meticulous it is and how each character has their own, like, thing, you know, it's a very beautiful looking film. It's also a very, like, heartwarming film. Again, I went as a because I also appreciate animation. And I'm going in like it just, full grown adult just watching this animated film, and it is still something that very much like resonates. Because we're all people who have needed to find and been wanting to find, what our center is essentially, what our purpose is, and really knowing who we are and our identity, and how we serve, right, other people, how what our relation is to, like, humanity and our community, and so that's something else that really resonated. And it was also just, like, it's a fun film. It makes, like, again, fairy tale characters just look badass. It was, like it was awesome. Um, and I just remember feeling like a kid watching it. I get the sense of that, like, from Rise of the Guardians, from Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, just, like, as far as the impact, I remember when I was doing research for this film, technically, this was actually a flop. I'll never forgive y'all, by the way, for sleeping on this movie. Um,
And I
and
like how a flop is. It made $300
yeah,
million
yeah,
dollars
yes,
on a $150 million
yeah,
budget,
right,
which is like, oh, that's not enough. Like, because
yeah,
it's all fake numbers. They're like, oh, you have to make twice the money. I'm like, why don't
right.
you just tell us how much the damn thing cost?
No, yeah. Well, because it was projected. So when they first started like screening the film to see how audiences would take it, they like it was projected to make like so much money. People were really responding to it in a positive way. So they figured, okay, this is great. We'll release it. We'll make so much more money. And it made way less than what they projected. So then you get media outlets already reporting it as a flop. And so now Peter Ramsey is feeling like, well, they're never going to hire me again because like I couldn't make back like the money that it was supposed to, or I couldn't make the money that it was supposed to. And I'm just like, that's crazy to hear because I don't think before doing research for this, I don't think I was aware. I just remember loving the heck out of the film, and then anyone else who mentions Rise of the Guardians, I'm immediately like, "Oh my god, yes, let's talk about it. Let's geek out about it because it's such a well-made film."
Well, it also has like the expertise of other like legendary people, like
Yeah.
cinematography. Roger Deakins was
Yes.
consulting
Yes.
on the
Roger, the
cinematography,
great.
the visual consultant.
Yeah.
Guillermo del Toro was
Yeah.
executive producing because he believed in the concept and
Yeah.
helped massage that. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting all these people who have such unique visions,
Yeah.
but that goes back to what made more money than this? Boss Baby Worldwide
Ah!
made $525 million,
Why?
like just like straight garbage. And then you have something with like a vision
Yeah.
that is trying to do something,
Yeah.
but that's the frustrating stuff when you see somebody trying to do something
Yeah.
and tell a story that
Yeah.
means something to them,
Yeah.
and then you just see that and you're like, all right.
Right, like, it boggles the mind, like, what ends up doing well and what crashes. Like, another example, which has nothing to do with Peter Ramsey, but it's the thing that popped into my head just now, was that Scott Pilgrim versus the World was also a box office flop. And I every single person, like and of course, I mean, I don't talk to, millions of people, but, like, I do talk to quite a few people, and any time that I've brought up Scott Pilgrim versus the World, people are like, "Oh my god, let's talk about it." Like, this it's such a great film. And they also talk and then the comic book people, the comic book nerds, shout out to y'all, will constantly be like, "Yeah, the movie was so much better than the comic book. The comic book sucks." Like, and I'm just going, "Well, then why did y'all sleep on this movie?" It's crazy. Like, I'm just like, you think and you never quite know. Like, of course, you can do your projections, you can screen it before audiences, and it just goes to show like you just don't know what people are gonna respond to, like in the general audience.
Yeah, like how did they know that like the Dragon movie was going to do so much more than this? Like Dragon made so much, and Dragon's
Yeah.
a great
Yeah.
it's a great
Oh,
example
yeah.
of a
Yeah, yeah.
DreamWorks movie,
Right.
but like it seems like this one was
Yeah.
equally as crafted as that
Yeah.
was.
Yeah, and then apparently I think so in an interview, because he talks about bouncing back from that, it was also, I think, 2 big films had been out for at least a couple weeks beforehand.
Mm.
It was like the whatever the new James Bond movie was, and Twilight, I think, or one of a part of the Twilight saga, which I haven't paid
It'll
attention
just
to.
bury you.
So it's like, okay, so you didn't have a shot in hell. So, which is unfortunate because again, incredible film. Yeah, and because of that, like people were like after that thinking about or wondering if we were going to get a sequel to Rise of the Guardians. And that didn't end up happening. I remember hearing that and going, "Oh my god, I would love a sequel." And then it just never happened,
Yeah.
which is a shame. Because I would have loved to see them develop that more. Do they bring in another recruit? Like, yeah, it's and where does the story go from there? Is it still following the same like kids? Are we seeing the kids grow older and like dealing with that, or like there's like so many different avenues that a sequel could take it, but we will never know. Um, so if you haven't seen Rise of the Guardians, I highly, highly recommend that you go watch it. Unfortunately, it's not on any like streaming services that I've seen. I know that you can rent it through like YouTube, and others. I think it's like $4 on YouTube. Um, but yeah, as far as I know, it's not on any streaming services. You can rent or just go buy the film. Go buy the film. Physical media is king. Please go buy it. But I would highly recommend for any of those who are watching and listening, it is an animated feature that you can absolutely show to your kids. I would highly recommend it actually. It's a really heartwarming film, a well-made film and yeah, after this film, Peter Ramsey was recognized as and again, like it's a sad thing that even then it's still we're still accounting firsts, but he was the first African American to direct an animated feature, which seems crazy to me because it was 2012.
Right?
But again, you know, I mean in 2026 we're still looking at first. I just that could be a whole other video or, podcast episode, but you know, I digress. So moving on to Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Um Released in 2018. Again, Peter Ramsey was the co-director for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and it follows Brooklyn teenager Miles Morales, who's bitten by a radioactive spider in the subway and suddenly or develops mysterious powers that form him into the one and only Spider-Man. When he meets Peter Parker, he soon realizes that there are many others who share his special high-flying skills. Miles must now use his newfound talents to battle the evil Kingpin, a hulking madman who can open portals to other universes and pull different versions of Spider-Man into our world. Okay, so when this movie came out, I was high key obsessed. I'm not even gonna say low key because that would not be doing my obsession with this film justice. It oh gosh, I'm trying to remember how many times I saw it in theaters. I think it was like 3. Either 3 or 4 times, I can't remember.
So
But
there's a clarification I have to ask Jackie. Did you
oh,
like this movie?
no, not at all. What do you mean? Not at all.
I can't remember how many times you and I have talked about it,
I
but also how
mean,
many times has everybody watched it? This is one of the single most rewatchable
oh
movies
my
of the
god.
last decade.
Right. By the way, shout out to Michael Huntone who thinks that he is the biggest fan of this film. I don't think so. And thank you. Michael, by the way, you have 24 hours to respond.
Shout
Um
out to Punches and Popcorn, but no, come on, Mike.
because we did that. It was over Twitter. We're like, I highly doubt that you're the biggest because we would go back and forth about that. Who's the biggest fan? And I'm like, absolutely not. I will, yeah. No, I know this film like the back of my hand.
No
It is
questions will be
crazy
taken.
for real. Um, Okay. So for those of you who are, I gotta say this, for anyone who is not like a big Marvel fan, not a big comic book fan, not a big animated fan, this film is for you. Um, I really don't think that you have to be any one of those to truly appreciate like what this story is about. I mean, there's so many things that this film touches, right? You know, we talked about how Peter Ramsey is very drawn to stories where, you know, you're having to find one's identity, one's purpose, one's way in the world. Um and this is a teenage boy who, again, I mean, regardless of whether or not you're familiar with the Spider-Man films, is very much, again, about finding your purpose in life and adjusting to changes, right? You know, as teens, you know, your body's going through a lot of changes, right? Your mind is going through a lot of things. You're having to deal with so much that is going on at home with those changes. You're also having to deal with that at school and so many other, like, kids and, like, trying to fit in, right? Because sticking out would mean that you're being bullied, you're being targeted, like, all these different things. So you're constantly dealing with all of that just as a regular teenager, and then you add on, like, the added layer that is having superhuman abilities. And so, he's having to navigate all of this. There's also the fact that, you know, there's now all these other, like, characters coming into view. So now he's recognizing that there are other people that are like them. So now he is in a way finding people that also understand what he's been through, and so each of them sort of kind of like play as like mentors to him. But there's still that kind of that feeling of like being the other, being the one who hasn't fully embraced their abilities or taking control of like those abilities. So all at the same time, while he's wanting to feel like he belongs, right, to this group of supers, right? Like, he's still having a hard time with feeling as though he can fully be accepted, or fully be with them, especially in their mission, you know, to stop Kingpin and everything like that. So it's him constantly having to prove himself to himself. You know, he doesn't want to stick out. Um, he's going to the school for gifted students, right? So everyone that he goes to school with is also, right, someone who is seen in our society as extraordinary, right? Is someone who is like a prodigy, someone who's smarter, right? You know, and so like like in that case, like he just wants to be seen as normal. Um and, you know, that's like, that's proven difficult, but the film does a fantastic job in, like, weaving all of that. He also has his Black and Puerto Rican, like, identity, right? And so there's a lot of talks, especially outside of the film, about, like, what that means. Because traditionally too, when we talk about Spider-Man, you know, we're talking about Peter Parker. Peter Parker is a white kid, right, like, from New York City. Like, so when we're now focused on someone who has a different identity, so there's also other things, I think more outside of the film rather than inside the film, but it's again just another, like, dynamic, right, to throw into the film, and not just throw into the film, I mean, it's part of canon, it's part of comic book lore.
Well, and
S
especially since it is such a New York story
Yeah,
too, and
yes.
I think the Miles Morales version is so entrenched in,
Yeah.
Into the Spider-Verse is so entrenched in New
Yes,
York.
yes, yes, yes.
Like, I not to bring this too into current events, but I didn't watch the Super Bowl, but I watched the
Yes.
Bad Bunny
I
performance
mean, we all come on. Who
yesterday.
didn't watch the Benito Bowl? All right.
But what like, when we're thinking about representation, when we're
Yes.
thinking about Puerto Rican representation,
Mhm.
like, and I see that and, like, I just get emotional thinking about
Yeah.
how beautiful of
Yeah.
representation that was, because
Yeah.
it wasn't one thing, it was everything.
Oh, yeah.
It was, the ups, the downs, the sexy, the struggle, and all
Mhm.
the stuff from, culture to community,
Right.
and I think that's what this also accomplishes so
Yeah.
well is that
Yeah.
it never loses
Right.
the fact that this is a real New York story. It's
Yeah.
not just, oh, Peter Parker lives in New
Right. He just
York.
happens to live in New York. Yeah.
Like, this is more of a New York story,
Yes.
the real New York in many ways than any other Spider-Man story ever has
Yeah.
been.
Right.
And that, like, that representation is so present in the
Hmm.
story, but it's never force fed. It's
Right.
so it just is.
And I'm also thinking too about, I mean, there's moments where, him and his mom, like, they're speaking in Spanish. That's not translated. There's little bits and pieces here and there. It's not translated. And I think that, of course that's on purpose because, this is the way that, mother and son, like, they talk to one another. And we don't necessarily need to be. I mean, of course, if you're someone who understands Spanish, then, that's just another like a bonus, or like just something that again speaks to that experience, right? And there's also the fact that, and again, when you're talking about it being a uniquely New York story, I'm also thinking about how there's also too a lot of hip hop, right? Like, that's
Mm,
infused into the score of the soundtrack playing in the back. And I mean, Brooklyn being the birthplace of hip hop. And I'm thinking about that scene with him and his uncle, voiced by Mahershala Ali, on when they're going down and like going into like the subway, and this is where he gets bitten. And there's actually a funny like thing that happens, like, well, when he's getting bit, you think that it's this gonna be this big thing, and then it's literally just him like flicking the spider off of his hand. Like, it's just funny. But like when he's down there, like, it's a way for him to bond with his uncle. There's also hip hop playing in the like, he's got his boot beatbox, and like, or the not beatbox, what am I boombox. Gosh, I can't talk anymore. This boombox, and he's playing hip hop, and there he's drawing graffiti like on the walls and stuff with his uncle. And like, it's just like this way to bond. It's again underneath Brooklyn being the birthplace of hip hop, like all of these different things coming together. Also too, just the way, again, obsessed. Oh, the way that this film the way that it's animated, there were so many other films afterwards that took that same thing. I know the newest, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles also took that same style, and
mm.
they made it their own, but they took the same sort of style that you see in Into the Spider-Verse and made it their own. There's other films, that sort of like took that same look, but it looks as though you are literally taking pages from the comic book, right? So you can see like, lines are defined, it's sharper, sharper edges. Like, there's so many things, like it's like you're looking at a moving comic book. And that's what I absolutely appreciate. And I also have to talk about this moment because this for me just like put the cherry on top. Was like, so the what's up danger sequence, and the leap of faith and taking a leap of faith. So this is when he finally like is more in control of his powers, right? He started to take on his purpose. He knows, he's fully embraced his whole identity. And so there's what's up danger that's playing in the background, and he's got his costume, he's like making it into his own, and he's getting ready to join, right, the other, Spider-Man or Spider people, um on their mission to stop Kingpin. And that entire sequence, I just remember like tearing up because like it I it had to have been like a number of different factors, but like how I became obsessed with films as a kid was very much like the spectacle, and it felt larger than life. And like, I felt in that moment, I felt like I was 6 years old again watching Star Wars for the first time. Like, that hit me like so hard. And I remember like watching the film the first time in theaters and tearing up because I was like, this is literally like how I became obsessed with films, like, in the first place. Like, it captured that same moment, and I just felt like I was a six-year-old kid again, and I I just adore that, and so when you can do that, like, as a director, for so many people, regardless of what age you are, I think it's just it speaks so well to the incredible artist, because directors are artists, that you are. So, yeah. Oh, I'm about to get emotional right now.
Well,
Like, it's so
I
good.
think that's the thing, right? Where it's hard. There's a moment in there for anybody,
Yes.
and not just not
Anyone can wear the
everybody,
mask. Anyone can wear the mask. There we
but
go.
it's anybody. Anybody
Yes.
has a moment in there when if you're watching it, really engaging with it,
Mhm.
there's a moment in there for you
Yeah.
that is gonna hit you in a way that you didn't expect.
Right. Exactly.
If you
Yeah.
love the craft of animation, this is one of the single best crafted
Mhm.
animated movies ever,
Yeah.
if not the best crafted animated movie
I
ever.
mean, it won an Oscar. It won an Oscar. This is what got Peter Ramsey, again, talking about firsts, first African American to win an Oscar for best animated feature.
And it could not be more deserved
Yeah.
because it's also a revolutionary animated movie.
Mhm, mhm.
It changed the game of
Yeah.
animated movies in many
Yeah,
ways.
yeah, for sure.
Um, and it also might be the best Spider-Man story
It
ever
is the
made.
best Spider-Man movie. It is the best Spider-Man. Argue with your mama. I will go toe to toe. This is the hill I will forever die on.
Well, and I think this speaks to the comic book nerds in our world, the Mike Huntones of the world, if you will.
Uh-huh.
Where I
It's all
can
love. We love Mike over
I
here.
can very confidently say that the Batman animated series is the best
Oh,
Batman ever
so good.
and the best Joker ever.
Yeah.
It's hard it's hard not to say that this was the best Spider-Man movie ever made, the best Spider-Man story ever told,
Yeah.
because it broke so many barriers, and
Mhm.
not the race barriers, not just the race barriers,
Not
but
just the
that
race barrier,
too.
but that too, yes, for sure.
But the crafting and the story
Yeah.
are perfect. It's
Yes.
just
It's a perfect film. I
like
mean, yeah.
it's hard not to say amazing things, like the cast alone.
Yeah.
But this is where, when you look at some of the other animated movies, you're like, oh, we just jammed as many celebrities in as possible.
Yeah.
Every single person fit the roles, the
Mhm.
casting, and all the choices.
Yeah.
Like Liev Schreiber as
Oh my god, the
Kingpin.
Kingpin. Oh my god.
It's not the best Kingpin ever, because that's always going to be Vincent D'Onofrio
Oh, yeah.
in the new
Yeah.
one,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
it's a great Kingpin because it has emotional pathos, it has emotional ties.
Mhm.
Um, you know, our girl Haley Steinfeld from Sinners,
Yes. Yes.
as in there, and
Shamik Moore, yeah, Shamik Moore,
oh, and he's so
he
good.
does an incredible job.
Jake Johnson, Mahershala Ali, I mean, the
Yeah.
best looking man, like, of the last 20 years,
Oh my
like, uh,
god.
I
Oh
mean,
my gosh, but Jake, first of all, Jake Johnson, oh,
uh,
speaking of which, also too, the first Peter, oh my god,
Parker,
Parker.
yeah.
Thank you. I almost said Peter Pan. I don't know why. Um
I mean,
but like the first Peter Parker in the film is Chris Pine. So Chris Pine comes back to feature in another Peter Ramsey film. But then we get Jake Johnson, and the gift that Jake Johnson is as
oh,
Peter Parker is, I can't imagine anyone else playing.
he's so over
He's
it.
he's hilarious.
He's so over it.
Oh my gosh. Getting strong. And like I'm like I just his performance in that is everything. Like everything. Like as much as I love who's voicing um Miles Morales. I also enjoy like his parents, his uncle, like
Yeah,
they're all like heavy hitters.
because his dad is Brian Tyree Henry, who's
Yeah.
awesome, and I think
Amazing.
he's so dad
Yo, my gosh.
in this.
Just like say I love you back. Say I love you back. Say I love you. That's a
And
copy. Like I'm
Luna Lauren Velez, if
yeah.
people watch Dexter,
Yeah.
that's Detective LaGuerta or Sergeant LaGuerta. Um,
Mhm.
you know, like, the voice is so
Yeah.
identifiably
Yes.
identifiably Puerto
Mhm.
Rican,
Yeah.
but it's, oh, like a career actor, like,
Yeah.
who's so good.
Yeah.
it's not a huge part, but every part had
Mhm.
deepness and richness to it,
Yeah.
minus maybe John Mulaney as Spider Pig, which I'm not sure had depth and other things, but it
No,
was
but it
great.
was fun. It was fun. It was a fun
Nick
Nick
Cage,
Cage, oh my gosh, as
oh,
Spider-Man Noir, oh my god.
and
Oh,
it's all
so
those
good.
things, the tonal shifts, the complication. Like this is
The
why.
coloring, the
Oh,
coloring.
so
Yeah.
I want to do the nerd thing for 1 second
Sure.
and talk about the frame rates they did, because this was the thing. It's every so often you see these little things about movies
Yes. Yeah.
that bring the magic,
Mhm.
and when you don't realize that they've happened, and
Mhm.
then you see it after,
Yeah.
you're when you're talking about that experience of going to the movies
Yep, yep.
and you are
Absolutely.
inspired
Absolutely.
that they started it off at a lower frame rate, and as
Mhm.
he became confident and became Spider-Man, it became smoother and higher frame rate.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even realize that.
Oh,
Like,
it's a
yeah.
complete choice.
Oh my gosh.
So they changed the
I'm gonna
frame
have to
rate
watch it again clearly.
of the movie
Yeah.
as he became Spider-Man. When you watch it again,
Yeah.
you can't not see
No,
it.
no, it will be something that I am absolutely like tuned into. Then there's always like with every watch, there's always some detail that I notice, and especially like the background. So there is because Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, um, was someone who had been begging. Like there
Oh,
was this
yeah.
whole campaign for him to be in the Spider-Man movies because he's that obsessed with the film and or with the comic book and the character, and he had been wanting to be it, and of course I think like aged out of it, or there was just like something about that. But like they're watching, so when he's over his uncle's apartment, um they're in the background is playing an episode from Community,
Oh,
but it's the animated like, so it's like an animated version of
it's
Community,
so good.
and I'm just like, that little detail right there
Yeah.
is just yeah.
So the frame rate thing started at 12 frames a second, it got up
Okay.
to film rate towards the end.
Okay, okay, okay.
So next time
Wow.
you watch it,
Oh, yeah.
you're gonna see it and you're just gonna be like, you're gonna nerd out so
Oh, for
hard about
sure.
it.
Oh, for sure.
It's like, so there's one recently I saw, because he also worked on Castaway, it brought it back up.
Mm,
Castaway, the entire audio on the island was
mhm.
ADR.
Wait, what?
All of it was
Yeah.
ADR. Every voice, every background, every single thing was ADR.
What in the world?
I saw it recently on a
Yeah.
video, and these are the things,
Wait,
we
explain also too. Explain ADR.
okay,
Yeah.
so ADR, so if you think of like the old like martial arts movies where
Yes.
you see the
Right.
mouths moving and you get the voice at a different cadence,
Right.
or you hear a voice that doesn't sound like it was filmed where it was filmed,
Mhm.
right? You're in a car and you hear it perfectly clearly with no audio in the background, or it's jarring.
Yeah.
That's like recorded audio after. It's not recorded in the moment of filming.
Right. Right. Right.
I
Right.
forget the actual acronym of ADR.
Okay.
But it's, you're recording the audio after.
Yeah. I'll look
And
this up right
this
now.
movie, so Castaway, the Tom Hanks movie,
Mhm.
where he's shipwrecked on an island,
Right. Right. Right.
they did every bit of audio after, and it's so perfect that nobody knew. And they did all the work and nobody noticed that it was done because it was done so perfectly, and that they didn't get the credit for like a decade after
Oh
because of
my
how perfect it was.
god.
But that's that thing, like, you've seen that how many times? Spider-Verse.
Yeah. Oh,
And
I can't.
you didn't notice because it's meant not to be noticed, it's meant to be felt. And you feel it, but you didn't know it was there.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
And
so
every so often that magic, we
yes.
get to experience that magic. And now as a film nerd and as a director, you're gonna see that and you're gonna be like, oh, they created a magic with technical choices.
Which
Oh,
is just insane. So, okay, so ADR is automated dialogue replacement. So it's a post-production process where actors re-record dialogue in a quiet studio to replace on-set recordings with better audio quality, fix technical issues, or update lines. It's also known as looping. So this essential technique ensures clear, perfectly synced sound for movies, TV, and games. So that's ADR.
yeah. And this is also the joy of watching a great movie like
Mhm.
Into the Spider-Verse
Yeah.
with a director that made choices.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the choices work out like these do,
Yeah.
all of the choices,
Yeah.
like, I it's hard, there's almost no flaws
Yeah,
in the movie.
and he talks too about, like, because afterwards they had wanted to bring him on as director for Across the Spider-Verse, and this was while they were still making Into the Spider-Verse, and he was just like, it's a very like, we're all pleased, very pleased with the work, like, with, with the finished film, but it was a very difficult process, and he talks about, like, how especially for animation, I mean, and especially when you're going with, like, a different kind of animation, one that we haven't seen before, there's a lot of talks about, like, for instance, how lighting, hits her character in the morning versus at night. What are the shadows? What are the shadows looking like? What does it there's all what is the water? Like, how does the water move? Like, there's all these very things that you would normally take for granted you're having to consider now in animation because it's not something that you've seen before. So now they're having to really create this world in so and starting at like the basic levels because again, they don't have any reference, with what to um in reference to like how they light certain things. And so there constantly talks about, oh, it's too dark, it's too light, this needs to be changed and everything like that. So it's a very long and difficult process because there's just like so much to review, so many things to consider. So of course, like um I think he likens it to like if you asked a pregnant woman if who's having triplets, if she wants to have another kid, she'd throw something at you. So like so like he says this in an interview and it just made me laugh. Um but like I'm like, yeah, like it had to be he's like I don't know if I like have the spoons like to be able to take on that big of a commitment and so soon. So but not wanting to, of course, come away from like, be away from it entirely, he then decides to be an executive producer on Across the Spider-Verse. So he's still involved, it's just not like the day-to-day sort of thing that he had to be as a director. Um, so so there's so much, and then, when you're talking about things like, Across the Spider-Verse, there were a lot of conversations too about and I know this was happening quite a bit, with what's going on with like animators and the people who are designing, for the film and stuff and the just the amount of hours that it takes, right? And so like, when we're talking about Into the Spider-Verse, especially when you're creating something that hasn't been done before, it's a ton of work that people are not aware of, unless, of course, you're working, on the film. So I just give him and so many other people, so many of the animators, just all the credit for putting together just an incredible film, an amazing, 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 amazing story. And it's just fun and it's heartwarming and again, it's like a familiar story, but there's so many like there's so many layers. So again, if you haven't watched Into the Spider-Verse, if you have Netflix, I know it's on Netflix, right now, because I play it on in the background because of course I play it in the background, whenever I'm working on stuff because I have memorized that film, I think at this point. Yeah, it's one of my comfort movies. So, yeah, if you have not watched it, do so, and you don't have to have watched every single Marvel film, like you have to do with, like, every other film from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, to understand what's going on. We really don't have to be that, you don't have to be a comic book fan necessarily, or even a superhero fan. It's a great film, it's a heartwarming film, filled with themes of, again, identity, of finding your purpose, of family, finding family, belonging, all of the things, right, that just, like make you feel like inspired, and yeah, it's an incredible
Complicated
film.
family too.
Yeah,
Complicated
Complicated
family,
Family.
because
Yeah,
it's not
it's not
it's
like
not a soft movie,
right.
but it's not a hard movie. It's
Yeah.
a movie that carries some weight
Mhm.
with those relationships.
Yeah.
And I think that's where great animated movies that kids can love.
Mhm.
I don't know if kids can love the things that have no depth.
Right.
And this isn't just for kids. This is for everybody.
This
This
is for
is
everyone for sure.
but if you were the right kid that saw this,
Mhm.
you might see something that might resonate with you. You might not
Oh,
know
yeah.
it then, but something's going to resonate with
Oh,
you.
yeah. There were so many kids dressed up as Miles Morales for Halloween, like
Well, they should be like,
yeah.
and it might be you might figure out something emotionally about how
Mhm.
you're acting. You
Mhm.
might
Mhm.
think of your
Mhm.
parents differently. You might think of adults differently. You
Yeah.
might think of, hey, you also might learn something about music. You learn something
Mhm.
about something. You're learning
Yeah.
or loving something
Mhm.
because there's so much to love
Yeah.
about it.
So
Like, you're
much
learning
love.
about heartbreak.
So
You're learning about all these things.
yeah.
And that's also a great lesson, and you're allowed to have depth in your movies
Yes.
that kids can love. You're allowed to have
Seriously, you
depth.
really are. You really are.
And
Yeah.
then, shout out to the writing too, because Phil Lord, Lord and
Yep.
Miller
Yep.
are
Yep. Yep.
amazing writers.
Yeah.
I do want to shout out their follow on to not this, but they did the Lego movie, which
Right.
of course is one of the great,
Yes.
intro,
Oh, yeah.
animation
So good.
movies. But like the one that definitely made me cry sitting in the house during pandemic was Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Oh,
Like, just I think they've hit such a beautiful mark. Their writing is great,
yeah.
but I love that this was driven
Mhm.
not by them. It was
Yeah.
driven by
Yeah.
somebody who knew the culture,
Yes.
that brought it so truly and authentically
Mhm.
to the screen through
Yeah.
amazing
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah. For sure.
And that statement you said about, "I'm not sure I can do it again," shows how much went into it, but
Yeah.
that's on every frame of the movie
Yeah.
is effort and passion, because you can't make this kind of perfect movie without that kind of passion and dedication. You can't.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Peter Ramsey, again, who's definitely listening to the podcast, um, please make more movies. Um, because you are absolutely needed. He that was actually part of his speech that he made when he won the Oscar. You know, he was to other filmmakers, he was saying, "We need you, keep going." Well, Peter Ramsey, we need you, keep going. So with that, I will absolutely close this out. It's been again, if you have not watched any of Peter Ramsey's films, I would highly, highly, highly recommend that you do so. An incredible storyteller, an incredible filmmaker. Um, and I really hope we see more from him. Um, but yeah, he absolutely deserves every single one of his flowers. And so I was happy to give those to him tonight for real. So listeners, I appreciate if you would go ahead and share comments, about, Peter Ramsey's films. If you've watched Into the Spider-Verse, if you've watched Rise of the Guardians, I would love to see your comments. Make sure you rate this episode 5 stars. If you haven't already hit that subscribe button, whether you're listening or you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Um, and also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads. You can also visit us at ourvoicesproject.com and sign up for our newsletter for more information about what we do. We'll be back with more episodes every Thursday with old and newly released movies that center Black, Brown, and Indigenous folks, general movie news, and interviews with film festival programmers and curators. Film critics, and of course, fellow filmmakers. Next week continues our series on Black filmmakers, their stories, and contributions to cinema. We're handing flowers to filmmakers that we feel you should be talking about, some of which you may have heard, some of which you may have not. Either way, You won't know until the story or the show. See, we're at the end, and I'm just fumbling because I'm that obsessed. Anyway, so you won't know though until the show premieres. So make sure that you subscribe. Again, this has been Jackie McGriff, your host for this episode of Representation in Cinema. As always, thank you again for listening.
This has been a presentation of the Lunchador Podcast Network.
Boomboxes are a device used to play music, sometimes cassette tapes and CDs. Beatboxes are an 11.1% by volume Tetra Pak that gets you tore up as fast as possible.
Oh my
Lots of fruity flavors.
gosh. I definitely meant. I'm like, it's not beatbox. I'm trying to say boombox, and I'm like, my brain just went no, and yeah.
That's what a beatbox will do to you, Jackie.